Parliament had a ballot, did it not, in order to have the referendum? They voted 6-1 to have the ballot. I'd like to actually ask the members of Parliament, the present on the panel, what part of democracy they don't actually understand. You took that ballot, you took the chance, we had the referendum, you didn't get the answer that you wanted, and now you want to turn it round. I didn't vote for the last government. Can I have a ballot?
A simple question from a lifelong Labour voter left Angela Rayner visibly shaken. What about the U-turns on your £28 billion climate plan and the two-child benefit cap? He asked calmly as her rehearsed confidence crumbled before a BBC audience.
All right.
Your job is to represent the public, the people who elect you. Start doing your job. If you don't like it, clear off. Simple as that.
I mean, what I was saying, and my clarity is that I'm not saying and I'm not suggesting we ignore the vote. The vote is quite clear. But as a Member of Parliament, I have a responsibility for British jobs, British workers, and for our public service, and support that. So you need clarity.
The moment has gone viral, with even Labour supporters wincing at her stumbling response. This wasn't just a bad interview. It was the moment the public's patience with empty political rhetoric finally snapped. Watch as we break down exactly how it all unravelled. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
When we first sat down, I wanted to know why the Deputy Prime Minister had decided not to equalise pay between 18 to 20-year-olds and those 21 years and over on the minimum and living wage.
We couldn't do it in one big swoop because we had to listen and take into account what the Low Pay Commission said about making sure that the employability, employers will often say, well, we won't take a chance on the young person and train them up. So what we did is we wrote to the Low Pay Commission because I feel that at the moment the wages are really low and that there needed to be a review that took into consideration real cost of living and also to start closing that gap.
When Angela Rayner strode onto the BBC stage, the confidence was palpable. She carried herself with the assured demeanour of a politician who'd practiced every line, anticipated every question. For the first few minutes, everything went according to plan. The audience responded with polite claps as she delivered Labour's promises with practiced precision, her talking points flowing smoothly as she ticked through the manifesto items one by one. What's fascinating about these political performances is how quickly they can unravel. One moment, Rayner was sailing through familiar waters. The next, she found herself caught in an unexpected current as a hand rose from the audience.
This increase in the minimum and the living wage this week comes at the same time that some people's finances are being stretched even further with an increase in water bills and energy prices and council tax. In fact, Citizens Advice stated that these increases will hit single parents the hardest.
There has been some criticism, with other measures that the government have had to take, but this is about investing in our people and the money that they get in their pocket, especially if you're on the minimum wage you spend. So we're closing that gap, as you say, is the biggest increase for 18 to 20-year-olds to £10 an hour, and we've increased the minimum wage for 21-year-olds to £12.21. So they are big increases.
The questioner, calm, articulate and precise, asked about specific U-turns that had left many Labour supporters bewildered. The abandoned £28 billion climate investment plan and the decision to maintain the two-child benefit cap. It wasn't the question itself that caused the problem. These policy reversals were well known. It was the fact that this wasn't some conservative plant trying to score political points. This was a lifelong Labour voter seeking accountability from his own party. The revelation that the man who asked the question turns out he wasn't a plant from the opposition, he was a lifelong Labour voter, transformed what might have been a forgettable exchange into something far more damaging. Watch the footage closely and you'll notice the exact moment when Rayner's expression shifts. The confidence drains from her face, replaced by a momentary flash of confusion. It's the political equivalent of a computer rebooting. That split second when a politician realises their standard responses won't suffice, but hasn't yet determined what to say instead. What happened next was both predictable and painful to watch. Rayner slipped into what could only be described as debate autopilot mode, offering what the observers called a mashed-up remix of familiar Labour soundbites. Rather than addressing the specific concerns about policy reversals that directly affected vulnerable families, she retreated to vague platitudes about economic justice, the importance of community, and vague optimism. Her performance resembled someone trying to navigate unfamiliar territory with an outdated map. As one observer put it, it was like watching someone try to win a chess match with a Connect 4 strategy, fundamentally misunderstanding the game being played. The audience wasn't seeking political theatre. They wanted straight answers about decisions that affected their lives. The most telling aspect wasn't Rayner's floundering, but the audience's reaction. Their expressions evolved throughout her response, transitioning from what began as polite claps and carefully curated expressions of concern to visible frustration. Their faces revealed the growing recognition that they were being served empty calories, political non-answers, dressed up as substance. This disconnect between political performance and genuine communication sparked immediate reaction online. Social media users didn't miss the opportunity to highlight the gap between rehearsed political speak and authentic engagement. Twitter renamed her Angela Rattled Rayner, while TikTok had Gen Z mocking her using cartoon voices and dodgy filters. The moment had transcended the BBC studio and become a symbol of performative politics failing to meet the moment. What makes this exchange so significant is that it captures a broader shift in public attitudes. The audience's evolution from polite attentiveness to visible frustration wasn't just about Rayner's specific performance. It represented something larger. People are no longer content with rehearsed monologues. In an era where authenticity is currency, Rayner's response felt like counterfeit tender. The contrast couldn't have been clearer between what Rayner offered and what voters sought. They wanted to understand why a party claiming to champion climate action would abandon a £28 billion investment plan. They sought explanations for why a party positioning itself as the defender of vulnerable families would continue a benefit cap that disproportionately affects children in poverty. Instead, they got what one observer called Rayner flailing trying to hold the line with recycled phrases that failed to address these substantive concerns. Throughout the exchange, you could see Rayner attempting to regain control to steer the conversation back to more comfortable territory. But each attempt only highlighted the fundamental issue, her inability to provide straight answers about policy decisions that contradicted Labour's stated values. The rehearsed confidence that had carried her through the opening minutes now appeared as a thin veneer covering substantial policy contradictions. What we're witnessing is not just Angela Rayner's uncomfortable moment, but the death throes of political theatre itself. The public has grown weary of rehearsed monologues and empty promises. They want substance, not spectacle. The viral nature of this exchange speaks volumes about the growing chasm between what politicians say and what voters actually believe. The audience wasn't seeking entertainment from someone auditioning for a West End political drama. They wanted accountability. The question remains, will other voters follow this man's example and demand genuine engagement? Or will politicians continue repackaging the same hollow promises every election cycle, hoping we won't notice the performance?